Hello there, aloha. I'm here with my good friend, Nancy Flournoy, Dr. Nancy Flournoy, and today we are going to be talking about the LifeWave SP6 Complete Patch. This is a really interesting patch that I think you're going to really enjoy learning more about. And so as we get into that, we're going to maybe have a little bit of discussion about the company at the end. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about LifeWave, but we're just going to start out with Nancy's presentation about the patch. So turn it over to Nancy. I'll unmute.
Hi, John. Hi, everybody else. Thank you so much for having me here. I am delighted to be able to research these patches a little bit and the biology and chemistry behind what they're trying to do. So today we've been going through one patch a week, and today we're talking about I'm talking about SP6. I am a distinguished professor at the University of Missouri, Emerita, and I am a proud LifeWave independent distributor. So this, you can see on the screen here, the SP36 package of patches put out by LifeWave, and the claims they make on their advertising brochure. So they say it complements a weight loss program, may help to reduce cravings, may help to reduce appetite. Now, this is very interesting. It's different from the other patches that we have looked at because in several ways, because, you know, some of them like glutathione is designed to increase glutathione production, and X39 is intended to increase stem cell production, and carnosine is intended to increase carnosine production of carnosine. With SP6, we don't really have a clear guide from David as to what the patch was designed to do. And so this is somewhat of a treasure hunt. And here's part of the question. The one claim is about cravings. And so we're going to talk some about the biology of cravings and see if that can tell us a little bit about what David was intending to do. And then we'll talk a bit about the patch itself and what studies they've done. And I want to tell you that just before making this this video, joining with you today, it occurred to me what SP6 stood for. And I may be slow, but that is the spleen meridian point. And so one of the clues to, I thought, to what David was trying to target with this light therapy would be what one might treat by putting pressure on the spleen 6 meridian point. And looking at what that point is used for to treat various things in acupuncture gave me no hint whatsoever related to appetite and cravings. Another sort of interesting thing to try and follow up on is that is the point where the liver and the kidney meridians all intersect. And so it could be that he was aiming at something with the connection between those. But I really was not successful in tracking down a link between this name of the patch and what David, the CEO of LifeWave, David Schmidt, the great inventor of these patches, what he was aiming for. So we're going to go on a treasure hunt here. And first we're going to look at cravings and what can we find out about the biochemistry of cravings that can give us some idea as to how these patches work. And I will tell you, there are great testimonials, and John has one of them that he might share with us after I'm finished. So we have some, personal evidence that these patches do affect cravings. And here's an attempt to learn something about it. So on this page, I have cravings categorized by different types. We have the crashed cravers, the stressed cravers, the depressed or anxious cravers, the comfort cravers, and the fatigued cravers. And each of those types of craving is associated with a amino acid. Well, except the crash cravers is actually associated with having your blood sugar levels drop too low, too often, so that you are driven to crave and consume sugar. And there is an amino acid that's associated with the recovery from that, which is glutamine, and it can restore your blood sugar balance. And so, so that's one amino acid related to cravings. And we've talked about glutamine before in the context of other patches. There's a patch, there's an amino acid called Gaba, which is related to the stress craving. And it is primarily inhibits neurotransmission between the nerve cells, in both within the brain and the spinal cord. It binds to receptors and it blocks impulses. So it can prevent reactions that may have to do with hunger and cravings. And the one, there's also another amino acid called theanine, which is has a calming effect, and it may help stressed cravers when GABA does not. Then there's the amino acid serotonin, which is helpful if the craving is for depression or anxiety. And it is a natural appetite controller. So I have a speculation that this may be a target for the SP6, but we'll talk more about each of these in a minute. We also have the comfort cravers, and they're ones that have gotten kind of hooked on the sugar high. And there's an amino acid called diphenylalanine, diphenylalanine, that it helps to abolish cravings, these kind of cravings. And then there's the fatigue craver, which are dependent on the energy boosts from, caffeinated beverages and all the sweet sugars. And there's a amino acid tyrosine that fuels energy and rewarding functions in the brain and helps recover from the fatigued craving by producing good energy and focus. So I will just say, in reading, in going through all the evidence that I have gone through, certainly not exhaustive because I've just scratched the surface, but my general impression of what I found that is available about craving is that the claims made by the supplement providers, that is, people who are trying to sell you these the amino acids here that you can get in supplement form, their claims greatly exceed what I was able to find actual research evidence to support. And the scientific evidence behind the functioning and relationship between a lot of these is really speculative and in its infancy at this time. So there's a lot of room for learning here in the scientific community, and seems to be a lot of interest in this subject. So here I just put these amino acids in a different arrangement so that we can look at them. And on the right hand, I have the type of craving that we just discussed. And then on the left here, I have them sort of organized by their relationship with each other. So we have glutamine, which comes in two forms. Here's the Gaba and then the theanine. So those amino acids, which we just described, just talked about as being related to stress, these forms are synthesized from glutamine, which is related to the crashed type of craving. And then we have tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid, meaning your body, you need to eat, you need to get it in your food. Your body won't construct it more generally. And it and the derivatives from it are related to the type of depression, type of craving that's caused by depression. So there are two derivatives of tryptophan. One's called 5-HTP and the other is serotonin. And we'll say a little bit more about each of those. And then the third line here that we get from amino acids starts with phenylalanine, which when they stick the letter, like you see the D or the L out in front of the amino acid, it has to do with the sort of the chemical orientation of the amino acid, whether it's flipped one way or another way. And it's related to comfort, and derived from it is tyrosine, which is related to the fatigue type of craving. So we'll say a little bit about these quickly, hopefully quickly. Here is a schematic of the production of Gaba. So you can see in this, nerve cell that glutamine produces glutamate, produces Gaba. And it comes down and it gets released out into the interstitial tissues, and it can come down here to a receptor cell and get locked on and do something there, or it eventually will wander around to a glial cell and it'll get converted back up to glutamine and come around and around again. Now, we talked about the glial cells in an earlier talk too, and they're cells that they, until very recently, they just thought they were structural, that they didn't have much of a function in our health production, but that's all being, there are discoveries that are being made now to say how important the glial cell is, but there's a lot that's very unknown. So, so just the fact that it's involved in this interaction and this processing of being able to sort of reproduce your glutamate from the GABA is important. So you can't get GABA directly from foods. You can, but there are foods that influence how it works, and that includes fruits, vegetables, teas, and red wine. And there's no evidence that taking GABA as a supplement will actually reach the brain in large enough quantities to have an effect. So very little known about actually trying to get GABA in supplement form. So this would be a great target for light therapy. So theanine is made from glutamine, and its structure is very close to the amino acid that makes GABA, which is glutamate. And some of its effects seem to be similar to glutamate, and some seem to block glutamate. So this also is an amino acid for which there's not a lot known. It's primarily found in plant and fungal species, particularly green tea. And I don't know about you, but green tea has long been known to have great health benefits. So it is also reported to raise the levels of serotonin, Gaba, and dopamine. Well, the serotonin and the Gaba we've already talked about as being related to cravings. So it will influence these other amino acids as well as perhaps work on its own. This 5-HTP, this is kind of the schematic of how it comes into being. There's an amino acid called tryptophan, which is found in food, and it gets converted. It makes the 5-HTP, and the 5-HTP makes serotonin. So then if there are problems with the production of serotonin, which can be either because of problems with tryptophan or the 5-HTP or the serotonin itself, then that can result in gut and heart problems, sleep problems. Oh, serotonin then makes melatonin. So most people know about the melatonin is useful for good sleep. It's related to fibromyalgia if there's not enough of it, and that should just say other pain conditions, not pain conditions. And then for the talk today, it's related to cravings for carbohydrates, alcohol, and certain drugs. So this is another similar schematic, but a little more biologically relevant. It looks like it's faded to me. I'm sorry if you can't read it, but it goes from tryptophan down to the 5-HTP. And then it comes down, and what this picture is showing is the serotonin in these little packages. So the serotonin gets all wrapped up, and then it gets sent to the edge of the nerve cell and broken out and sent across to the neuron that's going to receive it. So that's just a little closer to biology. And the tryptophan you can get from turkey and salmon, tofu, eggs and cheese, and nuts and seeds. So this whole process is related to the depressed or anxious craving. So serotonin, we've talked about it in the context of anxiety, happiness, and mood, and now anxiety is related to potential eating disorders, and so it is then related also to appetite. And if you have low levels, you're going to have a depression, be depressed, and perhaps increase in your appetite. I have one other schematic, I thought this was cool. So it's general. It's not in the context of any one of these molecules being produced, but you can see these little packets, like we were talking about serotonin in the nerve cell and getting sent out into the interstitial spaces, and then it finds the receptor, the cell where it wants to be. It locates a position that will receive it on the membrane of some other protein or cell, and it docks. And then you can see here where it's docked, it spreads apart. And as it spreads widely, all the serotonin in that package gets dumped into the receiving cell. So I thought this was a kind of nice way of showing how the amino acids like serotonin are getting transferred between nerves and other cellular functions. So I think it was the third line that we were following is this phenylalanine, and is known to be related to neurological support, mood support, discomfort management, which is why it was related there as having to do with comfort craving, where you want comfort foods, etc., and joint health support. So this relationship with discomfort is the one that's relevant for the talk today. And in that context, it inhibits enzymes, which are associated with feelings of pleasure. So you would like to have plenty of this amino acid. And the WebMD at this point says almost nothing's known about, again, supplements. If you take this, if you go take this as a supplement, there is no evidence that it's going to help or hurt. So again, this would be another great target for light therapy. And from phenylalanine, see here's the phenylalanine, and it gets hooked up with this hydroxy and becomes tyrosine. So in this form, it works as signaling in the proteins, and also works as enzymes to modify proteins. So if you are deficient in tyrosine, the symptoms that you're deficient are flu-like symptoms, fatigue, swollen joints, aching muscles, pale skin, a lack of interest in recreational activities, low levels of a thyroid hormone, which needs this particular amino acid, and weight gain and water retention. And that occurring even though you haven't changed your diet or changed your exercise routine. So this is a prime amino acid in the cravings due to fatigue. Now let's talk a few minutes about the LifeWave patch. And what is known about it. So we have, well, this first paper, this published paper in 2012, the research for that was actually done in 2009, and there's an earlier tech report that's similar. So I'll spend a minute on it. And then just very short references to these other papers that had to do with weight loss. So these are the sites, the patching sites that LifeWave recommends, and you can find the papers completely at my website on the lifewave.com. So Dr. Nazarin and the three colleagues here worked looking at different organs using an electrointerstitial scan machine. And we've talked about this machine before. It operates like an EKG that you put leads on people's, on the body, and then measures the rate at which the electricity will transverse around the organs. And so and there are about 100 normal subjects that form the idea of what is normal. And so if subjects are outside the range of those normal subjects and they would then come into range, one can say that they've improved. So they took measurements on 10 subjects. It's a small study. They looked at them without the patch, 30 minutes after patch, and after wearing the patch 12 hours a day for a week. And they looked at this collection of organs, and all those that are in green indicated that a change was observed. Now, I put the hypothalamus in a little darker print here because when you're in reading this paper, this is obviously one of the early studies that LifeWave did, but they spend a lot of time being focused on the hypothalamus as if they really thought it was key in the way the patch was targeted. So I was looking for a hint there that would tie us back to the discussion I just went through about craving. So here's what's known about the hypothalamus. It does play a big role in the control of food intake. So here's the big picture in the brain, and the hypothalamus is this little tiny gray thing. They say it's about the size of an almond. And if you blow up a cross section of that, you have the little green spots here, which tell your body it's hungry, and the little red spots here that tell it it's full. So that's pretty directly related to appetite. And then in this picture on the left, I have there's this there's I think it's amino acid leptin, which provides receptor signaling, and if it's normal, it kind of looks like this, and if it's been damaged, then a thing. So here we have receptors for the leptin, and if this nerve is damaged, then the receptors are all kind of twitched off. You see the little image of a scissors there cutting off the places where it's going to be received. So if you have low leptin receptor signaling, then your mouse looks like this on the right. And the mouse will eat a lot of fat. And if you have the normal diet, and then your receptors look like the one on the left, and your biochemistry is going to tell you that you're full when you're full. And so this leptin's a hormone. Sorry, I knew it wasn't an amino acid. Okay, so the key thing here is a hormone that hypothalamus is controlling, that is in this effect controlling your weight. So what's known about it is it's how it acts is going to increase your food intake or decrease your food intake and increase your energy output. It's produced by the fat cells in your small intestine. Its primary function is to regulate fat stores. And it has a partner hormone here called ghrelin, which comes from the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus that actually initiates your sense of appetite. And this ghrelin is called the hunger hormone, and it's produced in the GI tract. So all of those things are working with the hypothalamus to deal with your sense of cravings for food and hunger. I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's so much unknown about how hunger is regulated that what we then have is 4 hypotheses in the scientific literature that have very different biochemical suggestions as to what may be in fact regulating hunger. Hunger is not quite the same as cravings, but it's close. And it will be interesting to see how the scientific community, where they come down on whether all of these are true and relating to hunger in different ways, or whether some of them are true. Now, here's onto the site from Dr. Nazarin and his colleagues. And you remember what I said is I went into that whole thing about hypothalamus because this paper really spent a lot of time talking about, it sounded like they were really looking for the effect on hypothalamus, and it's delightful they got the effect, saw an effect on the other organs, but this was the one that they were really looking at. The study, they had subjects with and without fasting at 2 different sites. there was general agreement between the two different sites. And in general, the subjects lost weight and their waist size went down, and there was an improvement, and the fasting compared to non-fasting made these benefits improve. So the kind of the caveat with this study, with all these studies here, is they call it the complete SP6 program. And so it not only involves the patches, it involves a supplement and something else, which I'll probably show you, say here. But it's the things that were added to this program are not part of the package that you buy today. And so there's no research that I'm aware of or that David shared with us that involves the SP6 by itself. So in the last one, they used spleen 6, and then here they use the spleen 6 and kidney 3. They also get weight loss. And I think that pretty much sums up what I have to tell you. I think that it will be fascinating to hear from David a little more about, exactly where the patches, what the patches were targeted to do, so that we would know sort of what aspect of this talk that I just gave you was the most directly related to what it was that he was designing. I put a couple other recommendations here for you to follow up on cravings in general if you're interested. And I thank you for your attention and turn the, I'll stop sharing my screen and turn the talk back over to Dave.